So we asked the question this morning, and I'll ask it again. Is a crisis looming with the nation's courts? And some members of the legal community are concerned about a shortage of court reporters. Director of Public Prosecutions, Mrs. Paula Llewellyn, is with us now. Good morning, ma'am.
Morning.
All
Good
the very
morning,
best
good
to you and your
morning.
family
All the
for
very
the
best to you and your staff.
Yeah, man, great to
and
have
the public, of course, for the new year.
Great to have you with us. I kind of stupid, because when I read it, and I said court reporters, and I said, so why the reporter them don't go in court to tell us what is going on? But that's not what we're talking about. They are court reporters.
They are court reporters.
And what
it is a very highly specialized skill. I think even some of the technocrats at the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Justice, don't even fully understand how critical they are. Historically, the court reporters take a machine shorthand. It takes them anywhere between 18 months and 2.5 years to train to do it. And this is worldwide. In fact, worldwide, there is a shortage, but it's not abandoned, because the thing is, they are there to be able to understand the way the witness speaks. They capture everything in the courtroom, and when they produce a transcript, that is what the Court of Appeal reviews to see whether there was any error. Now, this particular shorthand, it's not them going and writing anything. In days of old, before full computerization, they would type on the machine shorthand, and when you saw the paper coming out, it would look like Braille. Think of Braille. You see these little dots, these little holes on the paper. That's what it looks like. But they are able to read it and then type it up and transcribe it to English. With full computerization, they are able now to, as they type, it's plugged into a computer, there's some SD card, and in real time sometimes you can read the computer screen and you can read the English. However, in Jamaica, because I hear a lot of people talking about AI and yes, recording. But a friend of mine said, but hold on. When I'm talking to Siri or Alexa, if you speak in raw patois, it's not going to understand your command. My daughter, who did cybersecurity, said, that is because it's a bunch of Europeans or Americans speaking standard English who have configured Siri or Alexa. If you're in China, same thing with the Chinese or whatever. In Jamaica, the challenge would be, if you're going to be having recording without more by machine, when the witness or the judge or anybody in the courtroom drops their voice, the court reporter will say, I didn't hear that, could you repeat? And then she types. When you go to St. Elizabeth, they speak a particular type of patois, which is different from the patois in St. Catherine, different from the patois. When you are in drama, you would know from Trelawney. And sometimes they are speaking the patois so fast. You'd have to have the human component to say, could you slow down? Could you repeat it? What would happen if you just have a machine that has not been configured? And I understand it would take years for them to draw on the different cadences and nuances within our language and our patois to really train the machine. What would happen is that large chunks, I believe, of the evidence would not be captured.
Omitted. And
so if it is, you would transcribe with some omission there, how would the Court of Appeal properly be able to review what took place at the trial? So here what has been happening. From 2015, the school was closed down. When I did my inquiries, because listen, I was prepared in the public interest, and that is what a DPP does. And may I say, even more than a judge, because we are on the ground, we are in the trenches. We are the ones who have to interact with the witnesses. You are all reading about some of the high-profile cases that we are doing. They are being done in my name, by my prosecutors. It takes a lot to prepare a case.
I want to ask a question, DPP, before we go further. We're saying it's a shortage. Typically, how many court reporters should we have, and what do we have now?
Well, the court reporters, they serve Parliament and they serve the Supreme Court, the Circuit Court, where you have the trials of like murders and cases tried there. You have to achieve anywhere between 180, be able to type, and 200 words a minute. When you, I understand, achieve that, then you are sent to the Supreme Court because your skill and accuracy, in light of the fact that you're dealing with the liberty of the subject, as opposed to when you're in Parliament, it is critical that your accuracy is right up there. I think you can suffice with a little bit lower than 180 to go to Parliament. So the shortage came about, I think, primarily because the school was closed. Okay. I understand there were no takers, but guess what? It takes about $1 million now to train a court reporter.
A single reporter?
A single reporter. But what used to happen in days of old, you could get scholarships or loans from the government. I believe that we should have a scholarship, right, by the Ministry of Justice, and then you would be bonded, which is what used to happen. Court reporters, 90% of them stay with court reporting until retirement.
So what number? I wanted to get some numbers.
Say about 45 are required. Presently, they are at maybe about 26, 27. And I heard another one just yesterday, I heard another one just resigned. So what has been happening, 2 left recently to become social workers because the pay is so much better. Now, a court reporter was always assessed from days of old by the Ministry of Finance in the secretarial range. I understand if you're not careful, an executive secretary earns more than a court reporter. Now, you cannot take up any secretary, whether at the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Justice, or anywhere in the system and say, oh, there's a shortage at the Supreme Court. They're in the secretarial range like you. Just go into court and go and type the evidence. It cannot work.
What you going to do about this?
Well, I'm here being a whistleblower. No. But then I operate like everybody else.
What can we do?
Other people under the Constitution.
What can we do about it?
And I believe that I had to speak out because it needs to be addressed. Because I took the view that the authorities at the Court Administration Division and the Ministry of Justice were playing unwittingly the part of Nero, fiddling while Rome was burning. And let me give you some figures. For the first time since I've been a prosecutor in 30 odd years, the remnant session, that's the remaining 4 weeks at the end of the term, for St. Catherine, St. James Circuit, and Clarendon have been closed. You know what that means? We had already set 63 cases in Clarendon for the last 4 weeks of this circuit. We set them for trial already. We had already set 57 matters in St. Catherine. We had already set 80 matters. So that will be 200 cases that have been set for trial that will have to be brought forward in this session and be set off. It means that witnesses, victims relatives, accused persons in custody, on bail, will all be without an opportunity to have their cases.
What will happen, ma'am?
Ventilated.
What will happen?
Well, what needs to happen, and I understand that this has activated and spurred the authorities to act, is for court reporters to be re-engaged. Having done my research, there are about 7 to 9 court reporters presently elsewhere that if the salary was consequent on reclassification was improved, they would come back into court reporting because it's a vocation and it's a skill worldwide. It's a skill that is admired. So I believe once we have reclassification and we have an increase, justifiable increase to suit the skill, I believe we'll be able to re-engage. And if we re-engage between 7 and 9 court reporters, then I think for the time being, we would be able to reopen these circuits. Yep. Also, a decision, and I think the Ministry of Justice has to take that lead, has to be made to reopen that school. And if it's even 5 persons every 2 years, offer them a scholarship, bond them, because there is a professional retired from the Canadian jurisdiction who is here, who is ready to train. Okay. So it means it's a decision and the will to do it that has to take place.
This is not the same thing. But how do you know the court reporter get it right? How do you know that what was said in court?
Because, well, let us put it this way. Though we may be taking our notes, and in fact, Now, my staff, my prosecutors, are all assigned a laptop as well so they can take it. But it is their job. It is their job. And by and large, they usually get it right. Because remember, when they reproduce a transcript, or you may have a situation where there has been an exchange, hostile exchange between the prosecutor and defense counsel.
Words are flying.
Yes. And the judge makes a ruling. The judge can say, defense counsel may say, but that is not what the evidence was. Prosecutor may say, no, my record here says that this is what the evidence was. And the judge will say, pause. Madam Court Reporter, could you read back what you wrote? That, as a matter of law, is the record. That what the judge writes is what the court reporter has transcribed.
And the AI can't capture that cross.
To my mind, because what would happen, the AI would be totally confused because you may have persons speaking in the vernacular. You may have persons saying unfortunate things, sort of watch it, but they still pick it up.
Well, have you had reason to say the court reporter never got it right? Have you ever had reason to say
I have been in, of course, we operate in the Court of Appeal, and you may see a transcript. And on occasion, you may see a word here or a word there where it is obvious.
The nuance is different.
That, for example, I saw an expression, ménage à trois. Ménage à trois, that's a French phrase. But counsel was being very elegant in describing a situation. Now, the court reporter got the ménage and the a, but the trois was spelled wrong. I did French at school, so I know it is T-R-O-I, but they had T-O-I. So I figured that the particular court reporter had not done French. So you may have something like that. But looking at it, for those of us
you would know what was meant.
We would know that it's ménage à trois. You understand? As you often say. And I see if you're smiling, and I hope you're not smiling for any other reason at the phrase. Neville, I'm just being
Neville, I think you're about to be prosecuted, Neville.
Tell him for me.
You need a defense attorney.
You have to have a sense of humor in that. And I can tell you, I mean, while we were on our feet in the Court of Appeal and we said, ménage à trois, you know, even the court smiled. Because you wouldn't often see that phrase.
No, not at all.
And we won't translate what it means on early morning TV.
I'm sure you have a lot of educated
people who got it. They got it.
Who got it.
Great to see you, man.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be an advocate for the court reporters
she's
and
director,
public interest.
Director of Public Prosecutions, Mrs. Paula Llewellyn.
All right. Hundreds of millions spent on the Jamaica 60 celebrations. Was the spend worth it? We're going to discuss that after the break.